Hello, this is a video on the deck that I used to get 10 wins in the historic Arena Open, winning me some solid gems, getting me through to day 2, and then I won 3 matches on on day 2, and got a good stack of gems that I've already spent on drafts and packs and stuff. So, we're playing White Life Game, or White Weenies, these being the Weenies. I'll kind of go through each of the cards and why I changed this deck list up a little bit for the best of 1 and the best of 3. So originally, instead of All Seed of Life's Bounty, I had Leonin Vanguard, just giving a consistent 1 life gain, which is pretty relevant for Ajani's Pridemate. It's really good to build up those life gains for Serra's Ascendants and the Speaker of the Heavens. But I took it out for All Seed to protect against pretty much all the removal that we'd need to. It gets through a bunch of removal. It helps protect against like Expansion Explosion, where Wilderness Wreck was pretty prominent. We just found out Wilderness Wreck is banned now, but it wasn't a day ago. So All Seed was very good. Now we have Healer's Hawk. This is, again, guaranteed 1 life gain. Very similar to the other card I was just talking about. Coolest thing, Healer's Hawk, that I actually probably win most games with Healer's Hawk, and that's because of Heliod. Heliod and Healer's Hawk, it just gets insane. You attack, it becomes a 2, then it becomes a 3, and so on and so forth. If you have a Linden in the mix, that Healer's Hawk is getting through for some big damage. Now we have Legion's Landing, creates a 1/1 lifelink, which is, again, what we're trying to do. The goal of the deck is to just get to like 30 life, 35 life, to activate a bunch of the secondary abilities of our cards. We have this Legion's Landing, which when we attack with 3 or more creatures, pretty easy to do. We could do it turn 3 most times, right? We play Legion's Landing, play 2 other 1-drops. We have how many 1-drops? Is that 20? 20 1-drops in the deck, so it's a good chance we have 3 of them. So we attack, it flips over, and it makes a 1/1 lifelink vampire. Helps us extend into the late game. Helps us trigger our Soul Warden, which gains life whenever another creature enters the battlefield, and our Daxos, whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield. Also, those lifelink tokens really help with Heliod. Another attacker helps with Linden, and another creature helps with Ajani's +1. So Legion's Landing's very solid. I took out 2 copies of this card just because I found that with 4 copies, I often had 2 of them. Very frequently, I'd have 2 in my opening hand, which means that one of these is the exact same with less upside than any of my other 1/1 lifelinkers. Speaking of 1/1 lifelinkers, we have Serra's Ascendant. As long as you have 30 or more life, Serra's Ascendant has +5/+5 in flying. This is actually, very rarely do I get it up and a 6/6, but it does happen. It's one of like the 3 or 4 cards that just say you win the game when you have this much life. So if you're at 30, you win the game because you just get a 6/6 flyer for 1, gets out of control very quickly. You can get 30 life as early as like turn 4. Other than that, this guy really just eats a removal spell. That's pretty much it. I'm happy to trade it for 1 life gain, +1/+1 on an Ajani's Pridemate, and my opponent being like, that needs to die. You gotta shock it before it gets to 30. Soul Warden, this is the bread and butter of the deck. I'll talk about the games that I lost. I only lost 2 games during my whole set, and one of them was the Mirror, where they had Hushbringer. They put 4 Hushbringers in their main deck, and my Soul Wardens couldn't go off, it couldn't gain me life, and that's how I gain life. It couldn't get me to snowball out of control how I normally do. This card is very good against Elf Ball. This card is very good against Goblins. Goblins especially, because they do their big turn where they're like, okay, I'm going to put 400 Goblins in play, sack them for mana, search my deck, and you're like, I'm at 600 life now. You have 2 of these, and then they try and attack through, and you can actually take a pretty big hit. The other neat thing, when you have these guys out, if you have a Ajani's Pridemate, this is going to get big. And if you have a Heliod, this is going to get big, plus you can give it lifelink. So there was a couple games where I had like 100 Ajani's Pridemate, and I just got to swing in and gain 100 life, and then make it 101, 101. So Soul Warden's amazing. Usually you want to play this on turn 1. There's been games where I played Soul Warden on turn 1, Soul Warden on turn 2, another Soul Warden on turn 2, and then got to play 3 3-drops, and I was already at 30 life on turn 3. So activating my Speaker of the Heavens and my Serra's Ascendant. Speaking of Speaker of the Heavens, we have a 1/1 for 1, lifelink and vigilance. Tap it to create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying. Activate this ability only at the time you can cast a sorcery. That's very important. That means that you can't do it during combat. You have to let all of that damage come through. Speaker of the Heavens can die, and then you can make that angel. This card has definitely won me some games. I'd say before Serra's Ascendant, this is easier to get off, but it gets killed very quickly. You really need to go like Soul Warden into Soul Warden Speaker, and then you're up to like 23. You play 2 creatures, and then you can tap to put another one in. That's kind of the ideal start for the deck. Now we have Ajani's Pridemate. This is a very, very quality 2-drop. He hates the bans. Deathstealer does not like them. He plays a lot of Wilderness Wreck. He is not happy. So we have Ajani's Pridemate. Every single card that we play on turn 1 says gain 1 life, so this is immediately a 2-mana 3/3. We don't even need to attack if we have a Soul Warden in play. And then after that, we play any creatures. This guy's just getting out of control quickly. Without having those insane Goblin Soul Warden turns, I've definitely had an army of 10/10 Ajani's Pridemates. It's pretty easy to gain 10 life instances, especially with something like Lidnid. Then we have Daxos, another really great card like Soul Warden. Helps with Ajani's Pridemate. I can actually trade off some of these 1/1s, especially the 1/1s from Legion's Landing, from Adanto, the First Fort, and gain some life from that. It's a good blocker as well. It's also 2 white pips for Heliod, and Heliod being active is a phenomenal way to just run away with the game. Speaking of, we have Heliod. It's 3-mana 5/5 indestructible, devotion 5, so it's not a creature until you have 5 devotion. Very easy to get with this deck. We're going to play 1, 2, 3 on turn 2. Then we play this guy on turn 3, and then no matter what we play on turn 4, he's active. Or we can just have this guy in Linden in 1/1 drop, and it's automatically active. Heliod is going to just be amazing. Whenever we gain life, we get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. So this guy turns every single creature into a pseudo Ajani's Pridemate. This with a lifelink creature is just phenomenal. This with a flying creature is just phenomenal. And this one, a normally big Ajani's Pridemate is good. You can also pay 2 life to gain lifelink on another target creature, or pay 2 mana, which is just synergizes so well with the deck. All about life gain. I've gone up to over 100 life with Heliod Ajani's Pridemate stuff. So Linden is kind of just it's just a card that I don't even know what I could have to replace it. There's so many pillars of this deck that synergize so well. Linden 1, it activates Heliod with its mana cost, 3 mana for a 3/3. It's a vigilance, so it can attack, block, and gain life while doing so. And then if you have these 2 in play at the same time, it attacks whatever creatures you attack with. You put them all on Linden to get her out of blocking range, or you separate it to make all your creatures have to get double blocked. Linden's just phenomenal. You don't have to worry about the damage on the backswing because she has vigilance. And she also makes it so you're gaining a bunch of life, activating Ajani's Pridemate. You attack with 4 creatures. Now you gain 4 instances of 1 life. Ajani's Pridemate gets +4/+4. And all your creatures get +1/+1, depending on who you want to put it on for Heliod. Very good card. Activates Serra Ascendant and Speaker almost all the time on turn 3 or 4. Very sweet. Now we have Ajani, Strength of the Pride. Oh yeah, when I was talking about how this sorcery is important, it means that Linden can't come down. You attack with all your speakers, and you can tap them and then just sack them. You have to actually attack, let blocks happen, damage resolve, and then they die, so you can't play a 4/4. Ajani, Strength of the Pride. This card is insane. It allows us to play pretty much, this is like 8 copies, so 12 total copies of Ajani's Pridemate. which is amazing. +1, we gain life equal to the number of creatures we control, plus the number of planeswalkers we control. Usually just +1, gain 5 life, which is very good for Speaker and Serra Ascendant. That's what we like it for. Now, we have the -2 of create one of these bad boys, but the very cool thing is these ones, 1, they die to Brazen Borrower, but 2, they don't die to Blast Zone. There's a lot of people playing Blast Zone in these control decks. Blast Zone really wrecks our 1-drop slot. It's really good to stagger your mana bases to avoid getting blown out by Blast Zone. And he doesn't die to Blast Zone. He doesn't die to board clear. So this is a card you can play down when you think your opponent is going to Shatter the Sky or something, and then you just +1, gain some life, get your guys to 4, draw a card, then you can -2 the next turn and start rebuilding your board. And the pièce de résistance, this last ability, if you have 15 or more life than your starting life total, exile Ajani, the Pride, and each artifact and creature your opponents control. So, this completely hoses goblins, this completely hoses any of these kind of enchantment-based decks that you're seeing a lot of. Any deck that's actually trying to fight for the board, you can get up to 35 pretty easily, and then Ajani just says, bam, you're back at the beginning of the game. And then you win because you have all these attackers, and there you go. Castle Vantress. There's been a couple times where I drew 2 Castle Vantresses in my opening where I would have kept it if it was 2 planes, but that happened maybe once during the whole run. This card it's a better planes. That's pretty much it. This occasionally gets me to put a 1/1 token into play, which has actually won me the game at times. There was one of the games, it was pretty epic near the end there. I had so many lands. I had Adanto, the first fort, and 3 planes to go with that, and then I had 4 additional planes and a Castle Ardenvale. Or sorry, not Castle Vantress, Castle Ardenvale. And then I was making 2 1/1s a turn. I was gaining life. I was outpacing my opponent, who had drawn gas. They had drawn 3 less lands than me, but because we were in this kind of locking antlers stalemate, I got to expand my board way quicker than they did, gained a bunch of life, and just tanked their flyers in the air. Then with Heliod coming down, it was activating my Daxos triggers, making everything +2/+2 every turn just from... And the game kind of just went out of control from there. So that's the basis of the deck. That's what it's trying to do. Usually you win on like turn 4 or 5, but the deck does have some real staying power with Ajani and Heliod. We can actually fight through some of those board clears. We can go 3 into 4, and then Heliod can attack for 5 that turn, and then Ajani can gain us a whole bunch of life. It's ridiculous. So let's take a look at the sideboard that I chose. So let's start off with Fight as 1. Fight as 1. Target human creature you control gets +1/+1 and indestructible, and target non-human gets +1/+1 and indestructible. So a lot of these control decks are really riding by the seat of the pants. The turn that they're playing their board clear, they're spending all the mana on it. They're not settling the wreckage. They're shattering the sky. They're time wiping. You often only have a couple creatures, and if you take a look, we have human, non-human, non-human, human, 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 non-human, non-human, non-human. So it's actually like a pretty even split straight down the middle of humans versus non-humans. So this Fight as 1 is saving 2 guys if you're playing against a control deck. You'll use it to just save 1 guy like an Ajani's Pridemate if they're expansion and explosioning it, or just shooting it with some removal early. 1 mana to play a hasty creature. That's pretty much how I think of it. You save 1 mana because your opponent might do this on the following turn. Also, very funny thing that happened one game. I was attacking. I was at, I want to say 22, and I was attacking with 3 lifelinkers. My opponent tries to shoot one of the lifelinkers. I Fight as 1 to give 2 of them +1/+1, and then my 2 Speaker of the Heavens got to make 4/4s because of it. So that +1/+1 also is good. We play this card if it just said indestructible. So Fight as 1 was for the control matchup. We'll put 4 of these in. Cards we'll take out in the control matchup. Daxos, not so great in the control matchup. And that's kind of, maybe I take out a, I don't know, Sarah's Ascendant, because it doesn't really have staying power. This card is better versus aggro. Yeah. We have Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage was for all sorts of stuff. You want to put this in play versus goblins, because Muxus can't put things into play from the library anymore. You want to put this in play versus goblins because Conspicuous Snoop gets to play things from the top of the library, so you're just countering your opponent's draws. Very good. And you want to put this in play against Rakdos Sacrifice, so you can't get that cat oven shenanigans going on. They can't bring things back. It also counteracts Uro. I never sided in against Uro decks, though, but it's interesting to note that. Now we have Devout Decree. You put this in against Rakdos Sac and Goblins and red deck wins and all sorts. Any deck that has something to target. This is such an efficient removal spell. The Scry is half a draw on a 2-mana removal spell. It exiles the thing, so it doesn't go to graveyard. It also is very good against Phyrexian Obliterator, which was pretty prominent. I sided in 4 of these. My opponent spends their whole turn playing a Phyrexian Obliterator and is like, what are you going to do? You can't attack with any of your creatures. Devout Decree. Your 5/5 that blows up all my guys is gone, and I win. Settle the Wreckage. I throw one of these guys in. I don't really know if this is right, but it's fun to have one of them in the deck, especially in those incredibly aggro matchups. I'm not talking like mono red wizards, but Gruul this is pretty good against, and actually in the mirror, because often they're swinging with a big flyer. That's how they're going to be winning. They're going to be swinging with a big creature, or any of the decks that try and beef up creatures with enchantments. You're pretty stoked about settling, because it just exiles the creature. Any of those Lurrus decks, it's amazing for. Shalai, Voice of Plenty. This is my anti-burn. I only have 1 copy of the card, so I'll put 1 copy in the sideboard. You can't be targeted. I played a couple mill decks too, where they had to target player mills X cards, and I just play a Shalai, and your Teferi's Tutelage no longer works on me. Also, you can't damage my face. You can't target me for hand discard. You can't do all sorts of things. The second ability doesn't really do much. I'd do it if I could, but green mana is not available for this deck. Now we have Heliod's Intervention. This was pretty much sided in because there was a couple people playing aggro artifacts, so they're playing like Ornithopters, and they're playing the 1/1 makes all your artifacts bigger. They're playing all of those artifacts, and Heliod's Intervention, 1 mana, blows them all up. There's a couple enchantment decks too. It's good to blow those up. And this was I did put it in for Wilderness Wreck, because if they get a Wilderness Wreck down, their whole game plan changes. They can actually win a lot of the time. I blew up 3 Wilderness Wrecks with this card at once, and it was awesome. I've never had to use the target player gains twice X life, but I maybe would put it in if I was feeling really bad in the burn matchup. But really, burn is a bad matchup for us anyways, and we just want to do what our deck does best and gain some life, getting a big Ajani's Pridemate down. This guy gets to like 4 health. It's unkillable for them. So that is the deck. I might let me know if you guys want me to play a couple games with it, showing how it works on the historic ladder, either in best of 1. I'll show you kind of my best of 1 version and my best of 3 version. And thanks for watching. Make sure to like and ask me any questions in the comments down below, and subscribe to see when I post a new video. Awesome. Thanks, guys.